Yair Shamir is a prominent figure in Israel's political and business landscapes. With an extensive background in both the military and the private sectors, Mr. Shamir brings a wealth of experience and insights to the table as the former Minister of Agriculture and the chairman of the Israel Aerospace Industries. He's the son of one of Israel's founding fathers, Prime Minister Yitzhak Shamir, whose 2022 released documentary Shamir, War, Peace and Dream is airing throughout Israel and the world. The Media Lion's Debbie Moonblatt spoke with Yair Shamir.
Mr. Shamir, welcome. It is an honor to have you here today.
It's an honor for me to be here.
Your family paid a heavy price for contributing to the creation of the State of Israel. One example being your separation from your parents. Would today's generation do the same?
Who knows? I believe that yes, but not exactly as it was in those years. Basically, it's a totally different period of time. And the kids, my kids, if I look at them and I look at myself as I were a kid, it's like a different continent. In those years, the family were ready to sacrifice for the sake of Israel and the Jewish people. Today, you are more individualistic. You're more looking for what is your own goods versus what it will do for me first before what it will do for my country. But as the kids are growing up and become men, it's different. Some of them are changing and are ready to sacrifice for the sake of Israel. So separation, when I was basically in the early age between, my father was arrested when I was 1 year old. I saw him only when I was 3 years old. And later on, when my father was in the Mossad, for 10 years, we scarcely see him. He was in Europe or elsewhere, I don't know, and we were in Israel.
Had Yitzhak Shamir not become prime minister, his influence on the nation of Israel would still qualify him as one of the founding generation's most impacting figures. Among the similarities between your father's tenure in office and the present is the indecisive election that resulted in the Shamir-Peres power share. Would Prime Minister Shamir have approved a unity government over 5 elections?
The answer is yes. I think that in his book, he says loud and clear that if he has at all concern for Israel going forward, that we will do damage to ourselves, not from the outside force, but between ourselves. And for him, unity was number one priority in any case. That's why he basically established the unified governments. And by the way, there were, I think, if somebody will check it, they were the best government ever. All of the history of the governments in Israel. For simple reason. Both sides understood that we have to work together. It doesn't mean that we have to think alike, but it's only said, let's define those things that we agree upon, and those things that we are not, put it aside later on. Let's first deal with what is in consensus. And it turned out that there are more issues that we are in consensus than those ones that we are depart of. So as a result of that, in those years, it's unbelievable. The achievements are unbelievable. It doesn't matter when my father was the prime minister or Shimon Peres the prime minister, the government as itself really achieved much more than if there will be a different government, minority government or like what we have today. So if he would be today here, he will give his advice to those leaders, party leaders, get together, define the thing that you agree upon, and define those things that we will deal later on.
Your father was known to be tough, unbending in actions he considered to be protecting the state. Yet, compared to today's vitriol, opposing groups still managed to get things done without the polarizing behavior that we are seeing today. What would he be telling his party today?
Nobody can change the fact that we are different. As a group, as people who came from different countries, different cultures, different background, less educated, more educated, and so on. But there are few things which are common to us. We are Jews, we believe, and all our, let's say, basic traditional and beliefs are Jewish origin. Secondly, he believed that most of the people are Zionists. Those ones who still live in Israel didn't live in the difficult years that they've been before. So we're Zionists. And when you connect, the connection between Zionism and the Judaism is the land of Israel. So you can be Jews everywhere in the world. Zionists, you have to be here. And Zionists. And the last thing which is common for most of the people here is Jerusalem. And he defined it, he said there is two Jerusalem. One, the physical one, the building, the wall that we spoke about, the old city, the Temple Mount, and so on. But there are also the virtual, those ones that the Jewish people for generation pray next year in Jerusalem. They didn't mean the physical, it was Jerusalem, different thing. And this is the imagination and the aspiration of the Jewish people to become a free people. This is Jerusalem for him. So I think that when you start to split, everything of those issues disappeared. Suddenly he said, I'm not Jewish. He's religious, I hate religious. He said, I don't care about this part of the land of Israel. I did this part. I prefer Tel Aviv. So you are not Zionists as well. You are ready to go elsewhere. So those three basic stuff, he said few times, he said, this is the basic. If you don't have those three base, the nation will be in trouble. And that's what you see today.
Just like today's government, the head of state during your father's administration was a Herzog too, the late Chaim Herzog. What would your father expect from President Isaac Herzog regarding the negotiations he is overseeing between Israel's incumbents and the opposition?
I don't think that he will ever vary. I'm not a speaker of my father, and so it's basically what I think, what they think that he thinks. I think that the President Herzog have done the right thing. And what he gained time. Calm down. He doesn't have any chance to gain real results. Because at the end of the day, the concrete results and solutions are in the parliament. And the president of the structure is this, that he is outside of the political system, is outside of the Knesset. All the demonstration that we have here it's not the parties, it's not the opposition, by the way. It's other people. And they're not the majority, of course. So and when we are talking about different things, so the solution has to become a political solution in the Knesset, in the political system. Otherwise, it will not catch up. Otherwise, it's chaos. Even in the demonstration stuff, you don't see a leading person or leading ideas. So it's a mixture. Everyone, you see, he protests against this, and then this against this. But from my point of view, it could be positive because it basically re-energizes the issues that we should discuss, like constitution, yes or no, human rights, the limits between, where is the limit between you as an individual and the state in a position that we are in. It's not in America or even Spain or in Colombia. It's here, it's existent issues. So somewhere, the line should be signed, or as I said, line in the sand, where then we never really struggle on it. In 1948, when Ben-Gurion declared about the foundation of the country and so on the same token, there were several agreements or understanding. One is the status quo between the religious population and the non-religious, the secular. That, let's say, that Shabbat is really a Shabbat, meaning no public transportation and many other limitations. And on the vice versa, some other solutions. He decided also that the IDF will be a Jewish army, meaning kosher. And if you have to travel in Shabbat, there is a process to approve it. If you've been in the army, you know that. You cannot just take a jeep and drive in Shabbat, because there were other ideas to have a secular army and religious army. And Ben-Gurion decided, no, we are one state, kosher will be. So many other things that the people in this point of time understood that today is not so. So the demonstration by themselves is, I think, is now as a catalyst to do several things, including building a constitution. Until 1992, Israel didn't have any constitutional laws dealing with human rights. It's my father that basically passed them in the Knesset, and it was not an easy job. It was a very tough job. The one is the Kvod Ha'adam Vecheruto. It's the dignity, human dignity and liberty. And the other one is the freedom of occupation. That until 1992, there was not a single law regarding human rights because of the situation. But my father, in his conception, he understood that Israel should be Jewish democratic state, not liberal. Jewish democratic state. So
Yitzhak Shamir certainly had his detractors, but do you think he could fathom 25 consecutive weeks of anti-prime minister demonstrations?
I don't think that he would arrive to this situation to start with. I think in one of the interviews, or even in his book, I don't remember exactly, he said, a leader in Israel should be very tough to the outside world and very soft to the inside world. And so when the people from the outside try to attack you, you should be cruel and do whatever you want. But if you have inside, you have to deal with gently and with compassion, with understanding. So he won't start this kind of reform without understanding, negotiation, going forward together. It won't be. So he didn't have to deal how to solve it or it won't be. And if you see that it's not the right time, now because of this or that, he postponed it. No eagerness to say, I'm the ruler now, I will dictate. It's not Yitzhak Shamir.
Prime Minister Shamir famously abstained voting the treaty with Egypt and the Camp David Accords. How would he have viewed the Abraham Accords today?
He did want the agreement with Egypt, no question. He didn't see the Sinai Peninsula as part of Eretz Israel, not at all. But he was concerned about one issue. He said that in this evacuation of Yamit and the 12 settlements that we have around El Arish and the area on the northern part of Sinai Peninsula, that at that point of time was very flourish, and it was an unbelievable place, green and water. And that's what we have done from the desert. If thought that we are now building a model, that settlement will be ruined, destroyed, and evacuate with no other model. And this model, he put pressure on Begin, and it didn't help, to find a way that maybe to keep the area built, not destroyed, and to make transportation or exchange of a population, maybe part of Gaza. Palestinians will go to this area, already fruitful and pretty beautiful area. There was Yamit was a nice city, and all the settlement around there was the villagers supplied the tomatoes and cucumbers to all the country. It was amazing. Now today it's a desert. It's nothing. It was the sand cover it, nothing, and we are stuck with this Gaza with no solution. And also the next step was evacuation of Gaza from land that even the Turks written in the taboo that these are Jewish land. The Jews bought it along the years. This was Jewish land, and we have to evacuate it, destroy our houses, and we get nothing in except rockets. So from his strategic point of view and how we saw it, he was right. Begin was right in thinking that it's a must to have a peace treaty with Egypt, which at that point of time was the strongest Muslim country in the area, and they were a leader in the Muslim world, on the Arabic world. But I think that he was wrong. He was too patient to get to the signatures, and he could take the negotiation longer and maybe get some other stuff. But he was not against it.
And how do you think he would view the Abraham Accords today?
He would appreciate it, very much so. You have to remember that my father was growing up on the Jabotinsky, I would say, thinking or thoughts. And the Jabotinsky thought versus the other people from the left is that it's a fact that on the land of Israel, that we think that is ours, there are other people which are not Jewish, they are Arabs, they are Druze, and we have to live with them, and we have to find a way to live with them together. They will have they should be equally treated, equal citizen. They will not have national rights to create their own state or whatever, but they can teach and talk Arabic or whatever, we will not do anything else. The left, on the other hand, thought, at that point of time, I think they even put that we should separate. The two populations should separate. And that's why in 49, I think, they agree, or even in 47, they agree to the separation of the land of Israel to the Arabic world, state, and the Jewish state. And of course, the Jewish authorities at that point of time accepted, and the Arabs not. Lucky enough, because if you look today on this map that the UN offer us, we couldn't build our startup nation. No way. So on that point, we were lucky. So I think that from my father's point of view, any agreement or conciliation with the Arab states should be done and will be blessed.
You are one of Israel's leading businessmen and experienced military men in your own right. Some have criticized the Abraham Accords as arms deals. Is that fair?
You have to look, we have to look at the big picture. The big picture is totally positive. It's an loud and clear statement that they accepted Israel as part of the Middle East. They accept that we are part of it. It's basically, if they say or they didn't say, it doesn't matter, that this land is ours, and there is a room for a Jewish state, and that we can find a solution how to live together. And life is compromising. There's only in mathematics there's 1 or 0, black or white. In life, even the photographer will tell you it's level of gray. So it's compromise, and you have to compromise.
Your contributions to Israel lay across broad fields, from the military to the private sector to politics. What do you think allowed you to be successful in all three, and which one was the most rewarding?
Well, I'm not looking at myself as a big champion. I've done what I should have been done. So when I went to my time came to go to the army, I volunteered to be a pilot. I make 25 years in the Israeli Air Force. I've done it willingly and wishingly. I passed the Six-Day War and the Lebanon War and the Yom Kippur War. All of them are very tough, but I've done what I should do to my country. And after 25 years, I decided to jump to save or to build an economy that could be secure Israel, because I realized that at that point of time, not too many people understood that if you want to secure the future of Israel, you have to secure its capability to grow economically. And the only way to do that, there's a lot of quotation of myself and many others, that we have the brain, the Jewish brain, and we have to transform it into success economy, and we have done it. That's the high-tech. And basically today, the locomotive of the Israeli, I would say, economy is the high-tech. And that's what I'm doing here, and that's what I'm doing the rest of my life.
What did your father say when you decided to leave the army?
When I decided to leave the Air Force, he didn't understand my move, because it was clear that I am designated to become a general or so. And at that point of time, I was colonel, and they didn't understand why I'm leaving. And the army is so important, and Air Force particularly. And it took him a while to understand that there is another war that we should do and win, and this is the economic war. We didn't have resources. We didn't have any natural resources. the only thing that we have is human resources, and we have to materialize that. It took him a while. I would say that 3-4 months he didn't talk to me, but slowly, he understood what I'm doing.
Your father was a leader pre-statehood in the nation's early years and ultimately a prime minister when Saddam Hussein was firing Scud missiles into Israel. He amazed many and was criticized by many when he accepted Washington's request to forgo retaliation. Would Prime Minister Shamir see the Iranian issue as an Israel prerogative or work on an anti-Iran alliance?
Look, before that was the nuclear facility in Iraq. That Begin and my father, they pushed the government and forced the government to decide to destroy it on majority of one. It was not, and at that point of time, I would say most of the defense establishment was against it, and they have done it. There are a lot of many people believe that their decision is based on the fact that they were hit by the Holocaust, and they look at that nuclear power as potential Holocaust, and many others saw it from different strategic point of view. So I think that if my father was in the dilemma that we have, not just today, but 10 or 15 years earlier, the dilemma wouldn't exist today.
What would he do if the US was not willing to participate?
We'll do it alone. We destroyed the Iraqi and we destroyed the Syria nuclear facility as well.
Israelis are suddenly being seen acting out violence against Palestinian homes, cars, and villages. How would the Prime Minister respond to that?
As I said before, the philosophy of my father and his generation was from what we call the right, which is not really right, because from an economic point of view, they were totally left. Meaning, my mother was communist, but it's in the terminology of left and right in Israel, so the right is those one that's related to the Palestinian issue. So I think that my father, from his point of view, that we have to find a way to live together. That is all his attention will be how to solve this dilemma and how to solve it. And it's not necessarily with power. It may be in other ways. Or if you need, you have to have a stick. Otherwise, nobody can be persuaded that you really mean what you mean. And don't forget that the first Intifada was in my father's time. The defense minister was Yitzhak Rabin. And by the way, the relationship between the two of them, though this one left and this was right, was extremely good. Better than Rabin as with Peres or my father with Arens. So they use power, but again, very, I would say, restricted and not really full power, but in order to avoid to create an hatred that will stay forever, but to do it more humanized. And today, because whenever the other side realize that we are weak inside, they try to get some achievements. I believe that it will be solved. Maybe a little bit with power, but in most of the cases, power is not the solution. It's just a means to get to a solution. And without crossing the border, the line in the sand of being human and looking for a way for good neighborship. That's the way. There's no other way.
Have you considered going back to politics?
It's not for me.
Is there one achievement in particular that you wish you could impart to all Israelis about one of its legendary leaders? And is there one request of the nation you believe your father would make?
That my father would make? Unity, unity, unity. That's it. No other way.
Do you feel the legacy lives up to the man?
The legacy is, it's difficult to say about my father because for simple reason. He was so humble and with zero ego. And he himself, and this, by the way, he put a sentence in his book, which we grave it on his graveyard. I think he said, I think that I wrote it to here. And I quote, "As for myself, I hope I will be remembered as a man who loved the people of Israel and the land of Israel and stood over them all his life and in every way he could do it." Just remember me, that one who loved the country. So, love, love, love. Unity, unity, unity. Or united, united, united. That's it. That's the secret.
Thank you very much for your time today.
Thank you for you.